a girl crashed into my car.
Outside the pool hall? Sorry, I'm just trying to set the scene. I want to make sure we're on
It was
the same
during
page.
the day. She saw a fish symbol on my car and said, "You're a Christian, you have to forgive me."
What?
So she wouldn't pay me for the accident.
You
She
could have
made
just been
me.
a fisherman.
Sorry?
There's a bunch of assumptions happening there. You could have just been a fisherman.
It had
Might have
ichthus.
bought the
It had the
car.
Greek word for.
So she's driving along. She sees a fish. She reads Greek, which is convenient. She's like, "You're getting it."
Welcome to another episode of This Catholic Life. Conversations about life's ups and downs, big and small, how we deal with every situation imaginable, whatever life throws at us, but still manage to be sensible, practical and joyful. Today's show is about self-defense, a conversation about when it is permitted in Catholic understanding, when it's likely, and to what lengths can we go to defend ourselves, both physically and legally, and of course just in terms of our good name. I'm joined today by Beth and Ben. Welcome.
Hi, Pete.
G'day, Pete. Thanks for having us.
No problem. Self-defense. Now, firstly, we should define what we're talking about here. Self-defense is when we come under attack in some way, either physically or, just in conversations or perhaps even legally. Is it okay to defend ourselves? Because there are some pacifists and people who believe Christians should never retaliate against violence or against attacks, like Christ didn't respond to the accusations when he was going to the cross, and he also didn't respond physically to people hurting him. So shouldn't we follow that rule?
Well, yeah, but didn't he also destroy the insides of a temple at one point?
No, he didn't destroy the insides. He flipped some tables and
got
made
angry at some things inside.
Yeah, and he drove them out with a whip. So yes,
There you go.
yeah. So he did
Defense
get angry.
of his house.
Interesting. It wasn't defense of him, except that he's God. It was in response to a misuse of God's house, and explicitly they were misusing God's house by putting a price on access to God's presence.
Well, I think it answers it straight up. You can retaliate if you're defending something greater than yourself,
Ooh,
but it changes when you're defending yourself.
I don't know, because even if I'm only defending myself, I'm still defending something greater than myself. In that, the
True.
defense of human life is more than just me.
True, very true.
So.
We got you, didn't we?
I'm just going to leave.
It's not a gotcha. It's not a gotcha moment. Otherwise, we'll have some self-defense happening in the studio. In terms of actual physical self-defense, I mean, I have to declare my interest here and say that for some time I was in martial arts because I got mugged 4 times in my young life.
4.
4 times.
What were you doing?
Partially it was being very stupid.
At which one did you start to go, maybe it's me?
I was a country lad. I came to the city. I really didn't have an understanding of the dangers of the city life. I had what back then was called a Walkman, so iPods now, and I used to like to go for walks late at night. And that was probably a bad idea.
Down to abandoned alleys.
And I went through several Walkmen because people liked my Walkman enough that they wanted to punch me and take it away from me. But the last couple of times were actually on a very busy metropolitan train station in the daytime on my way to work. So, yeah, one was with a knife, one was just with a threat. I don't know if they had a weapon, but they threatened to have one. And I thought this is about time to actually learn to defend myself in case I can't just walk away. I don't mind giving money or something like that, but to actually be in danger worried me more.
Yeah, maybe you should start insuring your Walkmans to get pretty decent payouts over this.
Or I don't walk late at night at all in the city anymore. And since then, I've seen many situations similar, and because I'm now aware of them, and one of the first things I learned in my self-defense classes was being aware of your surroundings and just not putting yourself in dangerous situations. So just don't seek those confrontations. But if you get into, if you want to go and shoot pool, for example, you're going to come into a situation where someone's trying to pick a fight.
Over pool.
Yeah.
Again,
You've
what
not been to a
pool
pool
are you
hall?
Where are you
playing?
playing? Yeah. Is this competitive? Is there money involved? What's
Usually
going
they
on?
want to, but just someone with an ego and a tight black shirt flexing their latest gym.
Was that you I was playing?
You know what? I'm not going to lie. Last time I did play pool, there was a woman that threw a bar stool at someone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of egos in places like that.
Why did you throw the stool, Beth?
Oh, was that you, Ben?
I think we're moving on too quickly.
One of my best mates, he's actually been on this podcast, was a king hit from behind out of nowhere. No actual response or anything. And we've seen in the CBD, they had to deal with a spate of these things where people just came at someone for the thrill of king-heading them. So, and now admittedly, they were out at night. But, my friend had a child in his arms. It wasn't like he was out partying with friends or something. And there is actual dangers. We often forget this in a city of this so-called civilization, that there are still people who will use violence to get things they want or just to get the thrills. So being able to defend yourself is a skill that's still necessary, at least for some of us.
Well, Beth's a black belt, so I'm sure she has something to offer.
Yes, I am.
Well, let's go with it, because a lot of Catholics would say of martial arts, it's a spiritual thing and you shouldn't get into it and all that sort of thing. I only went to Greenbelt because my Protestant friends gave me the hoo-ha about the spirituality of it. What do you think?
I did martial arts. I did karate for 6 years, and not once in those 6 years did I ever hear anyone mention the idea that there might be something a little bit concerning with mixing Catholicism and the sort of Eastern spirituality that underpins martial arts. I think that might be because there's a pretty obvious separation of the spiritual and the physical with martial arts in the West. Most people treat it as a form of exercise, self-defense. You never really see anything beyond that.
Yeah.
There's no sort of underlining Taoism, or I don't even know what spirituality it is, to be honest.
Depends which country it comes from, because there's Korea and there's still all the others, yeah.
Yeah. The problems, say, that Catholics have with yoga are never Catholics that are presented with martial arts.
Right.
I find that very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I did karate, which I think is Japanese-based.
Yes.
And there
apparently Indian, but I dispute that. It's Japanese.
Well, the guy that taught us was definitely from the Japanese spirituality, and there was a kind of a spiritual realm to it, but I just simply prayed. Focused. What I found most about it, and this has surprised me because I went in for the self-defense, but what I found was there's a lot of self-discipline.
Yes.
And being able to be aware of my surroundings became the big issue, and being aware of my own capacity and operating the best I can with my capacity. And I saw quite small people and slim people able to do things you wouldn't expect them to be able to do because they had this self-discipline and self-control. The other thing is that I often see people accidentally, especially very strong people, accidentally overdo it, whereas the self-discipline of martial arts means that you choose, if you want to how far it goes, kind of thing. So it's very Christian in that understanding.
You're just very switched on. You're very aware. The mental discipline certainly helps with things like, just exercising virtue and knowing when to, say, take a step back from a situation, not necessarily a physical one, but, verbal interactions with people or whatever.
The first thing my karate instructor said to me is the best way to not get hurt is not be there. And if there's a door and there's someone threatening you, just walk out the door. Yeah. He said you only do this if you're actually either defending the innocent or if you are the innocent one being defended. It's interesting. I'd like to come back to whether it's okay to defend yourself. If someone's just trying to rob you, property and personal health is actually a good, which is worth defending.
Yes.
And this isn't about me responding. If someone wants to attack me for being a Christian, that's a slightly different thing to someone just generally speaking having a go at me just in terms of my body or in terms of my stuff. Interesting. I had, throw this case study out there, a girl crashed into my car.
Outside the pool hall? Sorry, I'm just trying to set the scene. I want to make sure we're on the same page.
It was during the day. She saw a fish symbol on my car and said, "You're a Christian, you have to forgive me."
What?
So she wouldn't pay me for the accident.
She could have just been a fisherman. There's a bunch of assumptions happening there. You could have just been a fisherman.
It had
ichthus. Bought the car.
It had the Greek word for.
So she's driving along. She sees a fish. She reads Greek, which is convenient. She's like, "You're getting it."
Basically, she'd seen the symbol, knew it was Christian, and said, "Aha, here's an out," and tried to enforce her idea of pacifism on me. And basically, she ended up refusing to pay. But the point is that she assumed that I was never allowed to defend myself, even legally. Now, it's interesting. I have defended myself legally on several occasions where it was just a normal, ordinary human versus human kind of dispute. But where I was directly attacked legally and personally, and sometimes physically, for becoming Catholic, I chose not to defend myself because I thought the defence may end up sending the wrong message about being a Catholic.
I think it depends on the level of defence. Some of my friends, whether jokingly or otherwise, when I started to become Catholic, would make their comments, and there was an extent to which I'd push back.
Okay.
But never to the point of aggression, never to the point of, well, screw you, then like it was always a sort of, well, no, this is right, so I'm not just gonna let you run over me, sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm not talking about just someone having a go. They did have a go. I'm talking about they actually published lies about me and called me dishonest and deceitful, and also sued me.
The truth hurts, Pete.
They sued me. They sued me for quite a lot of money, getting back their seminary costs, and they actually banned Lutherans from talking to me at that time.
Oh my gosh!
So it wasn't just a light.
I wonder who it was. So vague.
So it was clear that they really didn't like what I was doing, and that came at me. Now, I understood where it was coming from. It was coming from a position of hurt, and it was a reaction to the idea of the truth behind Catholicism or not of Catholicism. And hence I thought defending myself in that situation would have sent the wrong message and, in fact, perhaps stopped people being able to approach me later about it. So I just decided not to go into self-defense mode. But I'm quite happy if someone has a go now to respectfully, firmly hold my ground on basic human goods, such as human life, the good name of people, etc. People have had a go at, for example, Cardinal Pell, and he stood his ground and went through the proper processes and stuck to his ground. And I just read another article recently that he's been interviewed again, saying that it was tough, and he went quite a few nasty things, and he just peacefully held his ground on that. So,
but he didn't let himself get trodden on either, trampled.
He didn't, but he had to endure quite a lot before he got to the end part. There's one of the things that I'm concerned about is that when we talk about self-defense, it often means an excuse to attack.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So there's lots
to
of people
retaliate beyond a reasonable measure.
To retaliate, that's a good word, yeah. So if someone says something nasty about me, that justifies anything I might say in return to them.
I don't know. I remember there's a bit in a Bible where God says eye for an eye or something. So, I'm all right with that.
Let's go there. That was Donald Trump's favourite text, in fact, when he was asked. So when he said that, I scoffed because he said it in terms of let's get some vengeance. But the eye for an eye text in the Bible is about limiting vengeance to just retribution.
Yes.
So back in those days, as we have it recorded in the earlier part of the Pentateuch, the common response was to go over and like if you mess with one of me, I take 7 of you. And the eye for an eye was to say
proper
no.
mafia stuff out of the pool hall, isn't it?
It is. And so the biblical response was justice needs to respond exactly to the proportion that is required. And then we have it in our courts. So theoretically, the judge makes a proportionate response to the damage that's done. So that's what eye for an eye is about. And perhaps that's a good, you only respond insofar as is necessary.
See, I studied policing back when I was younger, and we looked at the self-defense laws in New South Wales.
Right.
And so my reasoning for not going beyond what I need to is that I'm terrified of being arrested.
Right.
So it very clearly states in the self-defense laws that I'm going to get the wording wrong here, but eliminate the threat.
Right.
Once the threat's gone, you're done. Anything you do beyond that, that's now a new crime that you're perpetrating. Yeah. So if you attack me, I can do anything I need to get rid of the threat that you're but it has to be just. So if you're coming at me this way, if you go at a cop with a knife, he will shoot you because you're a threat, you're done. He can't then, go over. If he shoots you and you're down, then he puts his gun away and he comes and tries to help you.
Right.
He can't just keep shooting until you're gone, that sort of thing. So if I'm coming at you with a fist and you pull out a gun, then there's a yeah. So
it's interesting. I think that's might be considered an interpretation of the Catholic understanding of self-defense because we can defend the innocent against an unjust aggressor.
Yes.
And you're probably bang on it because in this particular law, I can do that. If you run it, our producer Mike here, with a knife and I happen to have a gun, I can eliminate the threat on his behalf.
Yeah, see, a Catholic would say,
Well, don't pull out your gun. But
if the only way to stop me is the gun, sure.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at the fellow who's in the Port Arthur massacre, down the rifle, I'm a sniper, I get the go-ahead, I can pull the trigger as a Catholic and not necessarily be a sin in that sense because I'm defending the innocent against an unjust aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
And I can use force up to that which is necessary to prevent the damage. Now, if it's possible to take his knee out, now I don't know if you've ever tried to hit someone's knee. It's very difficult, but if it is possible.
I went clay shooting a few weeks ago.
You hit someone's knee?
Yeah. So, and I was trying to. No, but I went clay shooting. First time I'd ever actually held a gun.
Yep.
And fired a gun, and I realised how hard it is to hit anything.
Yes.
And particularly shotgun shells. Over 30 metres,
Everywhere.
they have about a metre.
Yeah, but they don't do much damage at that range. But
no, but the point I'm saying, like even at 30 metres, with a metre of chance of hitting it with however many dozens of little pellets are in there, I was missing like crazy.
Yeah.
If I am in a situation where the only option I have to protect my life or someone else's is to shoot, then I'm not going for a knee.
it's one of the reasons it's a very good thing that we don't have guns lying around in Australia is that we know that in places where there are just lying around, people make those decisions poorly in general. And I loved the story in Australia of the man who just been sentenced actually, but he unfortunately killed a young lady and attacked another lady in the street here in Sydney. And he was stopped.
Sorry for you to love.
Yeah, I was just
I love this. This is the part I love.
Okay, here we go.
The story is that a passerby neutralised him by putting a milk crate
Oh,
over his head.
Yes.
Yep.
That's Australia.
That's Australia, boy.
In America, he would have been shot several times, but he's put down and he's in jail where he should be now, and hopefully he's receiving the treatment that he needs. But in terms of a response, it's too easy to go over the top when we have that option. In terms of defence, the Catholic view is you take the minimum amount of violence necessary to get you to the point of self-defence. Now, as we mentioned with self-defence classes, the first thing they teach you is get out of there. You know, if it's a matter of just removing yourself from the circumstances. One of the things I notice is that almost every fight I've ever witnessed or been involved in, it's been someone who could have left but didn't. Like there's been an ego involved and they've pushed it in some way, or anger or something.
Yeah, I'd say most of the quote-unquote fights I've been in have been while playing sport. When you're already kind of hyped up, you know, adrenaline's already going and some guy turns around and pushes you or something, you go, oh, mate.
Nah, mate.
And it takes someone, and it's funny because every single one of my teammates that I play with would pull me away if I was the one getting angry.
Really?
And if someone else is getting angry, we'd all pull him away. It's sort of like this collectively understood thing that when you're in the moment, you will take care of you.
This is the thing about self-defense. I mean, I think there's a legitimate self-defense of your good name if someone's slandering you. But far, far too many times, it's actually not. It's just an ego thing. People defend themselves because they feel like they've been shamed or perhaps even just mocked in some way. I used to use that this is getting off track, but I used to use this on the football field all the time. You just talk back to someone, or even I wouldn't even have to say anything. I'd just giggle at them. Whenever they got the ball and kicked it away from me, I just go, and they would take, like the guy with the biggest ego on the field is almost always the best player, and you take him out because within 3 minutes he's had a swing at me, he's clocked me, and he's got the card and he's off the field.
Yeah, a lot of the time I was the guy with the biggest ego and I definitely wasn't the best player out there.
At least you're honest.
So, I mean, but if his ego's a weakness and he deserves
well,
to
I mean,
be
we sort of, I don't want to say learnt because it's there was no lessons on it, but you sort of learn that playing cricket where it's not a physical game. I can't, you know, if someone says something to me, I can't walk over and start pushing him or something like. So you find other ways to do it. And cricket's actually kind of a bad game for that because it's you and 10 of your mates and like that one guy in the middle.
Guy in the middle. I was an
it's not
opening
always
batsman.
fair, but
I was an opening batsman in cricket. I mean, I wouldn't do it now, but so yeah, you're psyching, everyone's psyching everyone else. So it's basically an extended psych out section.
My brother was my coach when I was playing juniors,
Right.
and he one day thought it would be funny. Mum didn't, but he thought it'd be funny to put me at silly point, which, if you don't know cricket, is the one who stands about a metre away from the bat.
It's very silly.
Yeah, it's a really well-named position. Anyway, I learnt there that I didn't really have to say much. I could just look at a person and just sort of little smirk because the ball was coming in, and that was enough to undo them.
Yep.
So you do learn in cricket other ways to unnerve.
Has this turned into a podcast on
This is
how to
about
ruin
baiting people
people?
This is how to be able to use self-defense. If you want to practice, we can.
I wonder how many times, though, self-defense, the best self-defense is not to respond. Like if someone's puffing their chest out in those pool halls that I mentioned or angry in road rage or something, the best thing to do is not respond because there's almost no response that will de-escalate the situation.
You're not going to be able to calm them down. They don't want you to. It's just
Exactly.
Although you say that, but playing sport, there has been times where I've managed that.
Okay.
Where, for whatever it is, you make some sort of joke or something, or there's always the good one is the ref because no one likes him, so we can both agree that he sucks, right? So I'll make a joke about him, and then suddenly we're laughing, and everyone's calmed down, and you go the rest of the game, and
I just say, look, mate, we're not playing for Australia here. This is a Saturday game.
Then you're not playing hard enough.
The biggest problems I had was when I was
Cheap
playing.
stations are on the line.
When I was playing A grade, people played as if they were one step short of national selection. You go, dude, seriously, this is a Saturday sport. Just get.
I played one season of rep cricket when it was under 16s. And everyone went up. It's like, we're going to make it. No, we're playing at Hawkesbury. Yeah. We're a bunch of 15-year-olds. We've got a long... And look, some people did, but most of them, no. Yeah. Tradies, teachers, what you usually are out there. Yeah.
Very proud of my son, my second son, who plays soccer at the highest level in local comp and kept getting asked to go to rep level and kept refusing and said, no, I don't want to. No, because they're all serious. Yeah. I want to kick the ball with my mate. He was very good, but he probably still is, but he's just wasn't interested in the ego trip. So
I remember playing soccer. There was a club competition where each club in the district was asked to put up a team.
Right.
Made up of everyone from the different teams. You weren't allowed to be your Prem players. Like you had to be just the regular, anyone from 16s up. And me and one of my mates were in the under 17s. We got asked to be part of it. And we went and we ended up playing a team that was top level, all their rep players they'd filled it with. Mm-hmm. And we were there with a bunch of the over 35s we got absolutely walloped. It was like 8 or 9-0.
Yep.
We had the best time because these guys just kept cracking jokes. They didn't get and they would openly say to us, we're not going to run. You guys are 16, you run. So we were exhausted, but we were laughing. It was the best game ever. And we annoyed the other team who did start to get aggressive and in our faces because we were having fun.
Yeah. They're not their egos weren't being taken seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
But in some respects, a good defence, I still say a good defence is to either stand away and not provoke or sometimes humour. You mentioned humour is a good defence. And sometimes this is something perhaps, Beth, we could talk more about. One thing martial arts does is prepares you for situations. So because quite often we make bad decisions because we're in a high tense situation.
Heat of the moment.
And we're like, well, what do I do? And we don't usually respond. And what martial arts does is prepares you for all kinds of situations so you know exactly what a good response is. And muscle memory even. But we can do that socially too. We can prepare ourselves socially for when someone says X, I'm just going to be... And it's happened to me accidentally almost when people have a go at me for having a big family. It's a constant don't you know what causes that? And having some lines to come back which diffuse the situation rather than provoke it. Thinking about people having Catholics, how am I going to respond in each situation?
It's like, you take a look at high-pressure jobs like paramedics and the way they deal with situations is the rush from the hospital to the scene. Mm-hmm. It's a flurry, it's a frenzy. But the moment they arrive on the scene, they slow down, they don't run, they walk, they're calm. It's that mental preparation.
It has to be stable.
Yes.
Yeah. So and our adrenaline's pumping so hard when we get to the scene, and I'm not just talking about paramedics there, but you're an analogy for everything. When our adrenaline's pumping so hard, we've got to almost deliberately wind ourselves down and take a deep breath. Yeah. Self-defense is legit, but...
Something to remember next time you're playing pool, Pete. Yeah. You can run to get there, mate, but you've got to take a breather when you do.
Just hit him with some humour.
I haven't been in a pool hall since I got married, which is probably a good thing.
Did you get married at a pool hall?
No. All right, that's probably enough. My wife needs to, she'll want me to clarify that.
Yeah, wow.
That's it for this week's discussion. If it got you thinking or arguing or coming in to attack us, we'll be ready to defend ourselves. No, you can tell us what you liked or didn't like or what we missed in this discussion. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and write us a review on iTunes. Remember, this is an Australian Catholic podcast. We think that's an idea worth getting behind. Tell your friends. We'll be back next week, but that's all for now. Thank you for listening to This Catholic Life.